I'm going to get started. Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming today. I know that we're all really excited to be here and to talk about our favorite topic, and I'm sure something that's on everybody's mind, and that's digital transformation and automation of your recruitment function, and really talk about how the pandemic is leading our digital transformation, because we all know that's the truth, and something that we didn't all necessarily expect to happen. Before we start, I want to highlight, we want this to be a super collaborative session. So we will be requesting that the community participate in the webinar with us. And in order to do that, there's two ways. One way is you could use the chat function. And Caroline actually has access to the chat function, so she's going to be able to read the questions if they come in. The other way is to use the raise your hand button on the bottom of your screen. I'm sure we're all pros at Zoom at this point. We've all Zoomed. I looked at my computer the other day. It said I spent 5 hours on Zoom. You have your Apple tells you your productivity. So I'm sure you guys have all participated in a number of these. So if you don't raise your hand, we can't unmute you. So that's why we ask you to do this. I encourage you to turn your phone off. We've all been to our share of Zooms that have been interrupted in funny ways. So I encourage you to turn your phone off so we don't have any embarrassing situations. And when you do ask a question, or when you do chime in, through chat, if you raise your hand, I encourage you to say your name and your company, just so we all can, kind of be on the same page. And while we will give you an opportunity to ask your own questions, when we do ask for advice, it's going to be around a specific question. And just to show you, the raise hand button is right in the middle. The chat function is to the left of that. And you'll see this pop-up that comes up once we request to unmute you. So I'm going to hand it over to Caroline just to introduce the topic in a more meaningful way. And then I will take it back over and tell you a bit about both Talent Tech Labs and Eightfold, and dive deep into the questions.
Yes. So the pandemic has really forced companies to adjust quickly to a remote workforce that has really taken years to implement. And this rapid shift has led to a really high rate of adoption of technology and technological advancements. And really, we're seeing that this remote workforce may be here to stay with really no end in sight. All right, next slide. So studies are showing that actually COVID, not the CEO or the CTO, is really leading this digital transformation and innovation. COVID has pushed us to a point to really embrace technology and realize that it's no longer a luxury or an option, but it's a necessity to survive. All right, next slide. The pandemic really creates new challenges for recruitment and talent acquisition. Furloughs and layoffs have created a surplus of candidates, and really these companies will need to leverage technology to find the right talent in this huge pool of candidates. All right, next slide. There's been year-over-year growth in adoption rates of technology tools, from candidate relationship management to video interviewing to AI-based assessments and to bots. The companies that undergo digital transformation and adopt technology will be able to move forward and gain a competitive advantage in the post-pandemic economy. All right, and now we're really excited for everybody to be here, and we would like to introduce the folks that will be on the line for the panel.
All right, thank you, Caroline. Thanks for setting the stage. As Caroline said, we're excited and privileged to be here with you. And you have the unfortunate privilege of spending time with me an hour today, but the fortunate privilege of spending time with Kamal Ahluwalia, the president of Eightfold. Eightfold is a $1 billion company now. That's with a B, billion. And Eightfold is a talent intelligence platform that leverages AI to help you hire diverse candidates, and they have a robust feature set. And Kamal is going to tell you more about that. For those of you who don't know Talent Tech Labs, I'm going to spend 2 minutes telling you what we're about, just so you can understand where we derive our intelligence from. And then we're going to dive into, as I said, a really collaborative session together where we can all learn from each other. So we're on a mission to elevate the state of the art in recruitment technology. We're a research and advisory firm focused on innovation in the talent acquisition technology space. We do this by tracking as many talent acquisition technologies as we can. And I'm sure you're all inundated with talent acquisition technology tools. We've tracked thousands to date. And I can tell you, I've never heard a bad sales pitch. They always sound good, right? They always sound good. And you're always pumped about what they are capable of and how they're going to solve your problems. Really, what our goal is to be that translator between the builder of the technology and the buyer of the technology. We take features and functionality and business problems, and we translate that information into into a way that companies can buy technology. And so we analyze all of the technology companies that we look at. We put them in front of heads of talent and CEOs of staffing firms, and we operationalize our intelligence into research reports. Many of you, I'm sure, have seen our ecosystem infographic. This is the newest one, came out a few weeks ago. Really excited about it. It's a big project that the team spends a lot of time on. It's basically one lens into talent acquisition. We look at the space in many different lenses, but here you can see the space from left to right being sourcing, engagement, selection, and then core hiring. And of course, Eightfold is on this map. And I'm going to, today we're going to dive deep into, as we discussed, really the impacts of the pandemic on talent acquisition. And before we do that, I want to hand it over to Kamal to share a little bit about Eightfold.
Sure. Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you, Caroline. I liked how you framed this session because, yes, things have accelerated. So a quick word about Eightfold. We are an AI platform, single platform for all talent, hiring, retention, workforce planning, D&I, all of it. And soon you'll see us actually solve for contingent workforce as well. So I think all of it is because we're bringing a data mindset to largely a legacy process-centered view of how the HCM players have been played out. I think it's been interesting. Last, as you mentioned, we did have another round, a Series D. And I think some of that is simply testament to our customers that are live and seeing the results of their AI-powered transformation, actually seeing how strategic it can be. To Caroline's point, there is an opportunity and need to automate more now. And I think we are simply finding that the use cases are starting to work in our favor. So I think glad to be here. And I think this is more about how do we team up together to solve what's in front of us rather than about Eightfold per se. So back to you, Jonathan.
Awesome. So let's dive into the questions. And we'll start with the first one. And Caroline had some technical difficulties, but she is back. You want to ask the question, Caroline?
Sure. In what ways is the acceleration of digital transformation due to the pandemic impacting talent acquisition functions?
Kamal, you want to hit this one first?
Sure. So I think with all due respect, after solving the cure for COVID, and I think after counting votes, being an HR leader this year, I think is the hardest job in the enterprise space. Because I think nothing could have prepared us for what has unfolded, right? Everybody has been sent home. The focus has shifted in myriad number of ways. One was, of course, taking care of the employees and the safety and all of that. That took a couple of months. And then you realize that, okay, business needs to continue. And a lot of businesses had to change direction or figure out how to actually deal with the situation. And all of that has led to the acceleration and thinking through, everybody talks about digital transformation, but what does this really mean? And in my opinion, I think it means self-service, because it's not like hiring has slowed down for everyone. It has changed. And that has put the impetus on the TA leaders to figure out how to actually accelerate in this environment, because on-campus thing is done, right? So nobody's coming onto your office for interviews, but yet people are getting hired. You can't go for campus interviews, and yet you want to continue to bring in the early stage talent. All of that is actually starting to accelerate. And I think with the technology shifts that come, it's often the step function. You don't just need the incremental improvement, you're actually looking for quantum improvement. I think that's what has made this thing a very real issue. And we're seeing that. I think things have picked up substantially despite everything that we have all had to go through. In fact, the other thing, Jonathan, I was showing you is, if I may, I had this t-shirt on because during HR Tech, we thought what would be more interesting than to put 2020 in our rearview mirror. And below the WFH, it wasn't work from home. It is actually what freaking happened. And I think kudos to everyone in showing the resilience and the flexibility to deal with it and actually finding a way to continue with the business.
Thanks, Kamal. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think what's important here is the digital transformation is not only happening in talent acquisition. Digital transformation is happening across your entire organization. And what that means actually is that the roles that you guys are going to be searching for are changing rapidly, super fast. And we're going to dive into the impact of some of this. But, specifically, I'm sure all of you have had to adjust many of the things that Kamal mentioned. I mean, your campus hiring strategies, how you interview, the types of candidates that you interview. And so, we're going to dive deeper into this through some of the other questions. I see the chat here, and I'm actually I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to see it, and I see Q&A coming in also, which is great. So I do encourage you to ask questions, but we have more specific questions. So before we dive into sharing with the community, let's dive a bit deeper.
How has remote work changed recruitment hiring strategies in TA technology stacks?
Yeah, so I'll take a stab at this one. Look, I think as I suggested, the fact that everyone's working from home is going to significantly impact how you hire. The types of technologies that companies are thinking about today, are video interviewing technologies. Obviously, we're communicating through a virtual event on video. They're thinking about virtual event platforms, how to do college recruitment virtually, leveraging assessments in interesting ways, behavioral assessments specifically. We're seeing a lot of that because you want to, try to solve for culture fit a bit when you can't have someone come into your office. I think that, that's some of the technology that, that we've seen, making its way more recently. I'll hand it over to Kamal to see if he's seen anything different or some of the same.
Yeah, along similar lines. And I think what we're definitely seeing is more of our customers want more of this thing in a seamless fashion. And the way I would actually phrase it is people are rethinking the candidate experience. And they're also now asking for what does the recruiter experience looks like. So let me talk about candidate experience first. A lot of the folks, as Caroline said, are impacted, right? They are looking for opportunities. So there are more candidates available in theory, not always the right ones, but they are more, but you have to sift through that. And what's the experience? So you're not overlooking some of the really good ones while you're drowning in the volume. So one is the candidate experience, where a lot of customers have actually used AI, so that all you have to do is not let the customer or candidate figure out what do they need to do, what's the right job, how do I find that, but just load your profile and the platform actually makes a recommendation. And I think, Jonathan, the paper that you had published on the AI first recruiting actually captures some of that, the numbers that they're seeing, that almost 80% are applying to the right job. The number of diversity candidates has gone up substantially because more of them are generally tend to be diffident. They don't overreach. Men generally do. Diversity candidates don't, women don't. So that flattens the field. Thirdly, they are finding, because now if you're applying to the right job and the fit is there, and now you can even actually select the time on somebody's calendar, the recruiter's calendar, to have that first conversation right there. That's a massive difference, because if you have a good brand and you get a lot of applicants, half the time people never hear back from large brands. Now you're not just hearing about the right job, you're actually getting your first interview scheduled right there in 5 minutes. That's massive. So that experience is driving change. Plus, as Jonathan said, since the on-site interviews are not happening, even companies that were very slow and fastidious about their hiring process are getting through it within weeks. And that requires everything, all the little things that cause friction to be removed. The other thing that people are asking us now is using more and more of the interview feedback. So you select the panel, and then right after that, you're getting the feedback. So the next one already knows where things stand. And the other thing that's coming up with all this larger volume of candidates is about understanding the validated skills, the likely skills, they're not in the resume, the inferred skills, they're not in the resume, and the missing skills, right? So that visibility to the hiring manager makes a world of difference for them to go through it very quickly. So all of these things are coming together.
Yeah, I want to dive a bit deeper into a few things you said, and then I see a question from the audience. Thank you for asking questions. But I want to dive a bit deeper into something that Kamal said. So first of all, Kamal mentioned candidate experience. Kamal mentioned diversity, some matching, right? I think the good thing here is the pandemic isn't leading to digital transformation into things that when the pandemic's gone, we'll need to change again. These are all things that are important to an organization, no matter what. I mean, we really truly believe, based on our research, that candidate experience is one of the most important things that you can do as an organization, providing a good candidate experience. Why? We're moving into a world of rapid transparency, where candidates are going to know everything about companies. Companies are going to know everything about candidates. And I'm being bold and broad. It's not everything, but a lot more than they know now. And the only way that you're going to uniquely be able to differentiate your organization to a candidate is the experience that you provide to them, both as an employee and as a prospect, right? And so these are things, candidate experience, diversity. I mean, come on. This is something that we should have been addressed many, many years ago, right? These are all very important projects that need to get done. It's amazing. Unfortunate and fortunate and amazing that it's happening now in an accelerated fashion because it needs to happen. Let me just address one question that came in here from Colin Murphy. You mentioned an uptake in behavioral assessments due to teams being more focused on assessing for culture and values. Why do you think there's been a shift in what's being a shift rather than just how? So I don't know if I understand the question exactly, but I would, if I understand what you're suggesting, is I wouldn't say that behavioral assessments are more important now than they were necessarily, or we're seeing them leveraged more now than they were before. I think what we noticed around behavioral assessments is at first they were focused on culture fit, and companies still don't really know how to understand their own culture enough to really understand how to hire for culture fit. And so I think it's more about propensity to develop skills, some of the things that Kamal just mentioned. And in some cases, some of these talent intelligence tools can provide it to you. In other cases, behavioral assessments add to that. But I think that it's definitely something on people's minds. Can we assess for culture fit? It's a question that people are thinking about because you're not in the office with them. And I can tell you, we've hired. We're a small organization. We've hired No problem. I'm reading the questions as I answer. We've hired people remotely. We hired Caroline actually remotely. I've actually never met Caroline in person, and Caroline leads our marketing function, and she does an amazing job. So I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add around behavioral assessments, Kamal.
Yeah, a couple of things, because there's some very specific things that have emerged, right? With remote work, the issue is not just that are people being productive, because all of us are working longer and harder than it, but the issue is, do you have the managers who know how to manage a remote workforce? Everybody's talking about more empathy. So how do you determine empathy in the interview? But it should be discussed, right? So you have to actually figure out how to determine that. Then a couple of other capabilities that people are looking for specifically. One is resilience. The other one is agility. Third one is flexibility, because things are changing rapidly. And the other one is actually speed, right? Don't always look for a cookie cutter, because there is no cookie cutter. So those things, even if there is no tool per se, and anyways, with assessments, our personal thing is that it is great for validation, not for identification, right? So what you're looking for is, have you done this before? Have you experienced that? Find the analogies, have that discussion, because it's imperative. This hybrid workspace will be here past pandemic. We will get the pandemic sorted out, I think, by spring or summer. Fingers crossed, I'm hopeful. But the hybrid workplace will stay. So, right, the changes that are happening now will be with us for a while.
Yeah, we got rid of our office in August. Our lease was up. We don't have an office anymore. I mean, we plan to have an office. We're budgeting for an office, but it's going to be very different than what it was.
Good call.
Let's dive in. Dive into another question. We'll go a bit deeper.
What recruitment and TA technologies are being more highly adopted due to the pandemic?
So I mentioned some of these. I think there's a whole other category of technology that we didn't mention. I think we just touched upon. Look, the pandemic has led to rapid unemployment, and what that means is that there's a lot more people applying for jobs than there were before in certain segments of the market. And in a case where you have more applicants for every job, to Kamal's point, that's one of the many reasons why being in talent acquisition or HR at this time is hard. But you have to sort through a lot more noise, and so matching is super important. I think that the focus used to be on how am I going to find the needle in the haystack, because everyone's happy at their job, and now it's about how do I sort through all this mess? Like I have too many people applying, and so folks are starting to think about matching in a more meaningful way. Matching, matching is not just about what happens, matching a candidate to a job in your applicant tracking system. Matching goes beyond that to actually, that's kind of what talent intelligence is. It's the next level of matching. And maybe I'll let Kamal's probably going to be able to articulate that better, than I can. So I'll let him dive in deeper to that. But, I think it's an important thing for folks to be paying attention to.
Yeah, I think what the two elements that are playing out. One is finally, and I'm actually excited that it's happening, is this time around, the focus on D&I has been sustainable. It has not lagged. In the past, it would come up with every unfortunate episode, but this time, I think there are more companies and more executives sticking with it. So that has required more scrutiny on how do you identify potential? How do you broaden the lens? How do you understand what people are capable of doing? And that leads to the combination of using AI to actually see, okay, what have we seen in the past? Who's likely to succeed? So one is the capability part, not just keyword matching, but who's capable of doing what, because that will unlock more candidates getting hired who are coming from diverse background. Second issue is this whole thing about transparency, because as we are going through this volume of hiring, I'm also seeing more, so definitely more interest on AI, but also the how do we mitigate risk? Are your models validated, right? So how do we eliminate bias is one, but how can we actually report on that so that we are not creating the risk for the employer? Because they're all trying to do the right thing, but they don't want to walk into landmines. Then the third element is, how do we actually make it fair for everyone? So they're broadening the aperture, bringing employees for any job opening. That do we have already have people? Then the second divide is when you talk about digital transformation, you are looking for skills that sometimes are not in the company. So either you need to get the employees to build those skills, or you need to be very specific on what you're going to go and look outside. Now, a lot of the times it's almost every vertical is looking for data scientists, but they don't grow on trees. There just aren't enough data scientists coming out of colleges, right? So that is not a very long list. So then how do you actually find the right people who can be trained and brought up, whether your employees or outside talent? And that's what's creating the thing. On one side, you have a volume of people that you never had before. And the other side, you're looking for that capability. And when the capability is not there in the large volume of candidates, how do you build it? Now, if that was flagged right up front and you know that, yes, this person is great on 9 things, these other 2 things can be addressed in 3-4 months, now you can hire with confidence. So that visibility makes a big difference. We also have some customers who are saying, why don't I give that visibility to a lot of people who are interested in our brand and want to work for us, but we don't have a job for them? So they can go and acquire those, whether from a community college or somewhere else. And in a couple of months, they'll be ready and they'll be perfect fit. And that's a win-win. Because in a lot of geographies, right? I mean, it's not that you have hundreds of companies. There are few large employers. You want to work for them. So prepare for that.
I'm going to address, thank you, Kamal. There's a number of questions coming in. So grateful for all of you. I'm first going to address some of the ones that came in through chat, and then we're going to, those of you who have hands raised, we're going to open it up because you're probably getting tired of our voices, and we want to hear your voices. So first, let me address one here is, how can employers encourage employee engagement via remote workforce? So I'll address this. It's a challenge because it's a new, I think companies have always struggled to keep their own employees engaged. And now trying to do it digitally is a challenge. Some of the things that we've done as an organization, and it's a microcosm into probably what's happening at larger organizations. One, we actually recently did a virtual trip to the moon, where we all landed on a spaceship through a Zoom, of course, and our spaceship landed in the wrong place, and we had to navigate and problem solve together as a team virtually and navigate the moon and get to the end zone. So we're trying to come up with creative ways to engage people, and outside of just focusing on work. We're leveraging a whole number of tools, Slack, Monday for communicating, tracking projects, Zoom for communication, being sensitive to not making everyone feel like they have to be on video all the time. That's just some of the small things we're doing. I don't know if, Kamal, you want to share some of the things you guys are doing to foster engagement.
Yeah, a couple of things. We did launch Talent Marketplace or Project Marketplace. So you can actually have projects, and they don't always need to be work related, because we've had initiatives around veterans, etc. So where if you're interested in helping veterans in any capacity, you can actually come together. And it works both ways, where a project lead can actually post something, even invite some of the folks directly. And all of that is also that even if you're not participating, you can vote on the projects that are there. So this is starting to bring together more and more disparate parts of the country. Now everybody's at home anyways, to be aware of interesting things that are happening. And these are the things that would happen typically around your coffee station or the hallway water cooler. So we're actually providing the opportunity to have those conversations and engagements without us being in office. And that has actually been very positive, because the thing that we wanted to do was, some of the stars in your company, have them also participate in these things. And the mentorship programs also go a long ways, because classes only solve so much when you're working, right? So all of this is in the course of your work, how do we actually give you more? And then the AI platform, of course, is nudging you with more and more opportunities. And those prompts go a long ways when it's coming with a positive intent that Caroline, next time, I think the way you're organizing these things, you could be running Davos next year, right? So whether she wants to run
Don't get
Davos
any
or not,
ideas, Kamal. Don't get any ideas.
okay, don't go. It's still remote. It's the next thing that would be interesting and engaging in a conversation than just and the problem with Zoom, we've all become very transactional. It's like boom, boom, just work related. So I think that is starting to work. That everybody's caring. The caring has to come through.
I like that. That's great. Thank you. Got another question here, and then we're going to go to a live audio call in. The question is there a danger to over automating? I.e., introducing too much technology into the process, losing the human element of recruitment. And so I'm going to just give my 2 cents quickly. I'm sure Kamal has his opinion on that too. Look, I've as someone who's been an entrepreneur myself, a technology entrepreneur, you always want to build technology to solve a business problem. You never want to just build technology for the sake of building technology. Okay, and it's kind of the same thing goes for automation. You want to automate an existing business problem, so you want to have the problem first and then automate it. And so, in that regard, I think we don't believe that talent acquisition is going to be all robots in the future. We believe this is going to be a function that's a combination of tech and touch. I could use all the lines in the book. You can't take the human out of human resources. I mean, there's 1,000 of them, right? But truly believe this is going to be a combination of tech and touch. There's certain things you don't want to automate. I mean, a candidate's going to want to have a real conversation with folks that work at the company. This is a big decision to go take a new job. It's not just about, and it goes back to that point of engagement. In order for a candidate to feel connected and engaged with the company, it's more than just and stick with you. It's more than just the salary. It's about the people, connecting with them, and really feeling excited and comfortable in the environment. Anything? Any thoughts?
Yeah, and even though we are an AI company and actually we are in automation business, that is not what we're solving, that we over automate it. We're simply there to assist you make more informed decisions, and ideally on both sides. Let the candidate apply when they really want you, and you should be engaging when you really want to with all the right folks, right? And towards that end, it is simply a matter of assistance. The thing that I actually like that I think McKinsey had written a month or so ago, the way we should be looking at what pandemic has done this year: jobs lost, jobs gained, jobs changed. The jobs that'll come, market that'll come back in a few months and quarters will be very different than what we had last year walking into this year. That's how we should be looking at that. Our jobs are going to change. So how do we adapt? Because I would rather see a scenario in coming years where we are spending more time with people because a lot of the mundane stuff has been taken care of. That's the one that's not enjoyable and takes up too much time.
I agree. Well, we have Maher, like when you're in school and you keep your hand up like this for too long, he's had his hand up. I feel bad for him. He's been raising his hand for a little over 5 minutes. His shoulder probably hurts. So let's let him ask his question. I think he's still muted. That's the let's see if we can make it happen.
So yes, I gave permission, so.
His hand might hurt so much that he can't take it down. It might be stuck. Or he might have addressed his question. Oh,
hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Very interactive and very good conversation. I just want to know, in terms of GenAI, how we can use technology to help in terms of GenAI specifying for candidates, since everything is done remotely.
So I can address the D part of that, at least around talent acquisition, because that's our focus, at least at Talentic Labs. Are some of the technologies that folks are leveraging to make sure they hire diverse talent. So first of all, hiring diverse talent is not just about, it's not a technology problem. It's a combination of where you source the talent from, It's a combination of the bias that you remove from the process. And last but not least, and most importantly, what we've learned through a number of these is it's about accountability and social accountability. And because what happens is, I don't care how many diverse candidates you get through to the hiring manager, if the hiring manager is not going to hire them, you're not getting a diverse workforce. So the last piece of the puzzle, which I think folks have really started to hone in on recently, because there's lots of cool tech to manage the interview process, and that's a good job boards to bring diverse candidates in, is social accountability. And I know that Eightfold has a dashboard around diversity that does something like this, but that happens to be like the key to the whole puzzle. I'm sure that Kamal has more to add because he's actually delivering this inside clients.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. One is, yes, we do have the dashboard, and the purpose there is, one, you should be able to see how, if you've brought in enough diverse candidates at the top of the funnel, how do they progress through each stage? Second part is, if it's deviating from the norm across different roles, where is it deviating? Is it in the specific step, or is it with a specific manager or a specific recruiter? You can be very, very granular, and then whatever inspected improves, right? We shouldn't be punitive in these things. It's simply, let's be transparent. The number one thing that happens, which Jonathan already touched upon, is we didn't realize that when we listed 17 things we want in every job description, a couple of these things are setting the table against a certain minority group or even women, right? So I'll give you an example. Of all the data scientists, only 30% are women who know R. Only 15% are women who know Python. One is for backend, one is for front end. Typically, you don't need both. But if your job description says, I want data scientists who know both Python and R, you by default stack the deck against women, right? Those are the little things that if you can catch early, it saves everybody a lot of time. And the other thing is, by the way, a lot of these issues are on the hiring manager side, that they don't know what they should be asking for and still get the job done. So those things, if you're catching at the root cause, makes everybody else's life easier. And then we are not thrashing in theory, we are actually just looking at a data-driven decision.
Awesome. Let's dive into another question here. I want to encourage everyone to continue to ask questions. So in what ways does AI and automation, and some of these we might have addressed, so I apologize, but in what ways does AI and automation help the recruitment function leap ahead of their competitors? You want to address this, Kamal?
Sure. Reason I talk about self-service is, look at what Amazon has done. Do they make everything that's delivered to each of our doors? No. They just figure out how to actually beat everyone on speed and efficiency, and that all of us are actually placing orders and getting stuff delivered on that. So where it applies to candidate experiences, the clearer you are in your requirements, people are available, how quickly you go through that with transparency on both sides, it'll go make a hell of a difference. Because the thing is, in each of these things, as you see, right, when Uber started giving you the app, it's not like the cars were just around the corner. Sometimes it would take time, but you just knew where they were. Same thing with Domino's Pizza. It's not like pizza started showing up faster. It still took 30 minutes, but you knew where it was. So the more transparency you build into your decision making for everyone, for your recruiter, for your candidate, for your hiring manager, makes a hell of a difference. Everybody's aware, and it just brings down the temperature, because then, okay, we know where things are. And that's the more we are looking to do is, it's not like we know how to solve all the problems, but if you're also able to take action, and those steps are also easier to take, that makes a big difference in actually everybody getting along. And the last thing I'll share about D&I is, everybody has good intentions. Everybody's making the best effort, right? So we shouldn't be criticizing if the numbers aren't great. Because if we take that step back, you will see more progress and more companies being bolder with their initiatives. Right now, everybody's scared because you only take a step when you've already done it. When what we want is a bolder mindset that let's solve it. It may not be pretty initially, but we'll get to a better spot, and we will.
I agree. And I'm going to just add two things. I think there's two layers to this question also. Specifically, how is AI going to help you get ahead of your competitors? Well, if you're Home Depot competing against Lowe's, then you're going to be able to get quicker at scheduling an interview because you can automate that process. I mean, obviously, you're more likely to get that candidate because they're going to talk to you first. You're going to get them engaged before your competitor. I think at another level, I think within the organization, AI, all the great work that all the builders of technology are doing to bring innovation into the talent acquisition space is going to make talent acquisition a more strategic function. Folks are going to start to rely on you. Kamal said it. I mean, you should be the advisor to the hiring manager, telling them, hey, you're not going to find any candidates, with these skills. I mean, I think it will elevate the function and you'll become a much more strategic function within the company.
Great point.
Let's go to the next question. I see a question actually came in from Ben. Thank you, Ben. How do you convince a more traditional HR leader to explore AI, let alone adopt it? So I'll just give you my thoughts on this quickly. And then I'll hand it over to Kamal, who's probably convinced HR leaders to explore AI that are not traditional. Look, we've looked at thousands of companies, and 5 years ago the pitch decks were all big data. Now it's AI. Every deck says AI, right? The reality is that AI only makes an impact in certain areas, only solves certain business problems today in recruitment. You're not going to have a fully conversant bot that literally people think is a recruiter today. Maybe in a couple of years, but today we're just not there yet. You do have pretty good matching prediction engines today. That's a low-hanging fruit for how AI can make an impact, matching, prediction, recommendation engines. And so, if you want to suggest AI, that is the low-hanging fruit. It happens to be good timing now with the market because you're not buying AI to buy AI, you're buying AI to solve your new problem, which is too many candidates applying to your jobs because of high unemployment. So you might want to, go after the business problem rather than just the buzzy, word AI. That would be my suggestion. Kamal, any advice around that?
Yes, one is get the book that we wrote, What's Next for You. I'll send it to you if you want. Kamal at eightfold.ai. Send me your address, I'll send it. But actually, on a more serious note, and by the way, Jonathan also pointed out a few months back when we were talking about doing these couple of these webinars, he says, if you keep saying AI, you'll tune them out. And so what we have done is actually something different.
Oh, we got headphones.
Yeah, just like
I have. We could hear you a little bit. You could sign for everybody.
Okay.
We're gonna go with the. I actually did while we're waiting for Kamal to plug his phone in. I actually did an amazing thing today. I want to tell everyone that you should do it. There's an app called Be My Eyes. I think it's called Be My Eyes. I'm gonna look it up right now. Be My Eyes. I think. Let me see. And basically, it's actually not the name. I'll get it before the end of the webinar. But blind people can ping you, and when they want to look at something and they don't know what color it is, or they want to know what something says, they can just show you what it is. And so today, a blind person, video chatted me and said, "What color is this shirt versus this shirt?" And through my phone, I was able to tell them one was navy blue and one was black. Really amazing. The power of our phones. I think we have Kamal back. I'll get you guys the name of the app.
So what we did was took the carrot versus stick thing, right? So yes, there are a lot of traditional CHROs. First is the white paper that we did with Talent Tech Labs, AI first recruiting. that has a bunch of data points on what outcomes delivered to the customers, because that builds the business case that we need to solve a business problem. Here's the improvement that we'll see. And it's actually fairly granular, that what is it doing with your career side? What's it doing for the recruiter efficiency? What's it doing for the sourcing? What's it doing for DNI? That helps you build the business case on how you can eliminate a bunch of point solutions and get better outcome. That's number one. Second thing is there's another white paper that we have published. Fast Company published it. You can probably get it from a website, or I can email it to you, is AI for Good. That actually has contribution from Jolene Anderson. She's a CHRO for BNY Mellon. Professor Huggy Rao from Stanford. Michael Ross, who was a CHRO for Visa, now teaches at Stanford as well, and Ashutosh Garg. And that's also about holistic view of why this matters. To me, it's not about the technology. It is why is it relevant in every case. And the simple thing is, instead of worrying about that we couldn't go to 10 college campuses, what if you could get the resumes from all the campuses and then figure out which 20, 30 college graduating students you want to talk to? That's worth pursuing, right? So think of how this thing can be very meaningful. And that will, and plus we're having tremendous, they can all talk, and we can actually have a session for the CHROs. Maybe the next one we do is for CHROs to discuss that, how do we evaluate this thing? So, and by the way, the conversation has changed. 2 years ago, it was very different. This year, it is all about how and why, and how do I mitigate risk, not do I even want to deal with it.
Thank you, Kamal. We answered this question, so I'm going to go to the next one. And I, again, want to encourage the community to share, and we're going to open it up in a minute because I want to hear all about what you think. So the adoption of new technologies creating seismic shifts in the mix of skills, we spoke about that, required to succeed in the labor market. How does this impact recruiting strategies and how to hire for the new workforce? I think we touched upon a lot of this. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add, Kamal.
It's just hiring for potential. Let's become better and better at understanding what people are capable of doing, because then they will stay with you longer, right? The career growth is built in when there's headroom. So that's the main thing I would say. And that's also, yeah, go ahead.
No, I would just add, this is an opportunity for all organizations, whether you are growing rapidly or you had to lay off your workforce and you're rehiring again, to do it right, to hire the right seats for the right jobs now. And so, I think it's a good opportunity for you to dig in, think about your recruitment processes, bring in the right technology so that you can make a meaningful impact. We will share, Kamal mentioned the white paper, the TTL white paper. We will share that one as well. So we have about 10 minutes left. I want to, this is one of my favorite questions. And that is really what we think the next big trend in talent acquisition technology is going to be. Kamal, you want to take a stab at it?
You go first on this one.
All right. So I think there's a few that we're seeing. I think, and it all kind of ties to the same concept. One is, all about upskilling and retraining and reskilling your talent. And really at the same time, we're seeing a trend around what we're calling talent intelligence, which is why we're here today with Kamal. Where we are seeing an exciting opportunity where it's like the next level of matching is right, this talent intelligence idea. And actually, we have a trend report coming out, and Caroline's going to get mad at me if I tell you it's too soon, but I think a few weeks. The end of the year for sure, on talent intelligence, and that's our next trend report. So we're super excited to break down the barriers there and interview folks about all that's happening around talent intelligence.
Yeah, I think we are seeing increasingly a lot of increasing interest in a single platform. And I think it's not from a technology perspective, it's more that why don't I have a talent network where everybody that I would be interested in hiring and everybody who's interested in working with me is engaged with me, so that when we have an opening or we have these pipeline recruiting strategies, right? Because you do have turnover 10 to 20% in every sales team. You know areas where some people will leave, the pipeline is ready because you already know the people that you're interested in. So that instant pipeline, to some extent, what Netflix and Amazon have done to us is, why can't that happen with talent? There are only so many people. And initially, of course, there's widening the aperture because maybe we are all getting used to hybrid workspace, so we can hire anywhere in the country. But I think that just makes it very, very compelling that what if it was easy to find the needle in every haystack? And we can.
I can tell you personally, I struggle with this new. We moved from the on-demand economy to the convenience, to the instant economy. There's a better term for it, but I struggle when, like, my furniture that I ordered takes 6 months to still come, when I can get my Amazon package delivered to me in a few hours. I mean, so
Yep.
I feel the need to want to get to a world like that with talent acquisition and the ability to identify the skills you need quickly. I want to open up the floor, see if anyone else has any predictions on the trends of the future. And while we do that and wait for folks to raise their hand, and I encourage you to, there was a few other questions we can address. So while we wait, I will ask the next question. So an interesting point was made, thank you very much, about companies not understanding their own culture well enough to implement culture fit tools. Why is this so common? And can you expound on how this problem could be solved based on the topic today? I think there were a few large challenges there. One were some of the tools that were built were biased in nature because they were going into your existing workforce. And if your existing workforce was all white males, it was like perpetuating the bias. And I think, the idea of culture fit is a hard thing to solve for. What does that mean? And so I think, and at the same time, you want a cognitively diverse workforce, folks that think differently, folks from different walks of life, and so I think it comes down to the soft skills that folks have, their EQ, their ability to connect with others, their compassion, their passion, these things that help them be better managers, help them better engage with their colleagues, their managers. So these are the things I think that folks need to focus on. And I don't, rather than looking at what exists and trying to figure out, what your culture is. Anybody have any other questions? You have Kamal and I on the line. We have about 3 minutes left. And if not, we will give you guys 3 minutes back. All right. Well, thank you.
Jonathan, I have a question for you before we wrap up. You are sort of, you have the pulse of the industry, because when people start to think about initiatives, they come and get your counsel. That what about this, what about that? What are you seeing now compared to what you were seeing during the summer time frame?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, diversity is still super important, but it's definitely moved up. If diversity was in everyone's top 3, it's now in 1 or 2. That's a super important thing that folks are asking about. the more tactical, virtual events for college recruitment. Many of our clients came to us and tried to solve for specifically that challenge. We had even some smaller challenges. Folks couldn't post a remote job ad because the job boards work based on the locations you post the job. So you can't like post remote. So you couldn't actually like distribute a job. And so some of these smaller problems, became the highlight. But no, I'd say diversity, matching. No one comes to us and really, I mean, they do come to us and say AI, but it's really that, based in a business problem of too many candidates, which is some of the business problems we've discussed.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming today. Thank you, Kamal, for joining us. Really glad we had the opportunity to share these insights with all of you. We have a satisfaction survey that we're sharing with everybody on their screen. If you could fill this out, it will help us make the content better next time. So appreciative for your time and look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thanks a lot.